Hello, and welcome back to the Awakening Film and TV podcast. I am your host, Kristin, and today we will be talking about the film Harriet. And this was a 2019 film and was one of the first SAG-AFTRA screeners that I received. That and Parasite, I was the most excited to watch after I joined the Screen Actors Union. So I really enjoyed this film, like a lot. Like I was really impressed by it actually. Um, and I thought that everything about it was a great tribute to who it's about, because it is a biographical drama about Harriet Tubman, who worked in the Underground Railroad. And I'll just go into a bit of history for you, where Harriet Tubman, she was born in 1822, and she passed away in 1913. And she's known as an American abolitionist and political activist. She escaped slavery and rescued approximately 70 enslaved people, including members of her family and friends. Slavery was allowed, and you could even say encouraged, in the southern states, and those that sided with the northern states, also called the Union, is where people of African American descent could be free. So the southern states, also known as the Confederates, held on to this toxic view of it being okay to have slaves, and it being okay to be racist and abusive and not treat Black people as people with full rights that earn respect as an equal. There was the Fugitive Slave Act. Basically, it said that escaped slaves are in jeopardy of being brought back. So then, there were these like bounty hunters that would literally go and hunt the slaves that had escaped when they're already in the Union states. They would hunt them and bring them back into slavery. So it was a scary thing. So that was in 1850, was when that got passed. The American Civil War lasted from April 1861 to May 1865, and slavery was one of the key political issues of the war. Basically, the disunion of the United States came after Abraham Lincoln won the 1860 presidential election on an anti-slavery expansion platform, and kind of split the U.S. into two, the Union and the Confederate, the North and the South. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared that all persons held as slaves in states in rebellion to be free. It made ending slavery a war goal. And though Lincoln was assassinated, the war did abolish slavery, and the Union won, creating the United States of America once again. And it took a little bit to free all the slaves. The last slaves were freed on June 19th, 1865, which is where the Juneteenth celebration comes from. And then the 13th Amendment was passed and ratified on December 6, 1865, making slavery illegal from then on in the US. So this film, it has a lot of heart in it, and it really does honor her legacy. And honestly, it's an informative film. Like if you want to check it out, it it is very it's like you are seeing history literally come to life. It's made in that sincere way. And I mean, I've read about Harriet Tubman ever since I was in elementary school, you know? And I've never seen any film adaptation or anything of her. And I remember seeing this picture in my history book in elementary school, and she looked so determined. Um, really, really an admirable person in American history. So, this film um, was directed by Cassie Lemons, who also wrote the screenplay with Gregory Allen Howard. It stars Cynthia Erivo, hope I'm saying that right, as Harriet, and then also starred Leslie Odom Jr., Joe Alwyn, and Janelle Monáe in supporting roles. So a lot of people were wanting to make a film about her, and originally, apparently, Viola Davis was supposed to star as Harriet Tubman, or was rumored to, but Erivo was cast in February of 2017, and then the filming took place in Virginia from October to December 2018. So the film did pretty well for itself. It premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in September 2019, and then was theatrically released in the US in November by Focus Features. Critics generally liked it, and they loved Erivo's performance. They thought the film was, for the most part, sincere but formulaic. It did still get some commercial success, made some money, and got several accolades and nominations, especially for Erivo's performance. She got nominated at the Academy Awards, Golden Globes, the Screen Actors Guild, and she's also a singer, and she made the song Stand Up with Joshua Bryan Campbell, received Oscar, Grammy, and Golden Globe nominations for their song. So I agree that Cynthia Erivo's performance, so talented. I am completely inspired as an actor. It is heavenly and so real and so raw. She is captivating. She is all heart, and she puts all of herself in it, and she creates a really well-rounded human character in this film. And it's also the writing of it, which I really like the screenplay, because it allowed that well-roundedness of Harriet to come out, and showing her journey into really believing in herself and following what she knew was right for herself. The cinematography by John Toll, beautiful. The music by Terence Blanchard, really good. Really fits it well. And Cynthia, she has this tenacity about her, this focus about her as an actress that I believe lends herself like really well to the Harriet character. So I see why she was cast as her for sure. So it starts off with Harriet Tubman, also known as Minty, Araminta Ross, in Maryland in 1849, married to John Tubman. So she's a slave. She has always had these spells, but really they are like psychic visions. And she sees a vision of herself escaping to freedom. And she is very devout. She believes in God. And it's really beautiful to see her journey in herself and this vision of, oh my gosh, I could be free. And so she even says in the film she'd rather if she can't be free, she'd rather die. So painful, but powerful. And she ends up escaping. She actually does it. And her visions guide her. And she guides others with the Underground Railroad and helps them to escape. And it's not easy, but she does it. Oh, she is such a inspiring character and actual person in American history. And I love that she longs for freedom and she knows it's possible, and she doesn't just fall into fear or complacency, as understandably many people would in those situations. And slavery, it goes back to ancient times, and it's such an awful, awful thing. I really love that she stands up for justice and truth. And why I wanted to talk about this film and this podcast is because of her psychic visions and how other people would consider them like witchcraft or possession or demonic influences trying to sway you. Instead of listening to all that, Minty, or Harriet, trusts in them, follows them, and freaking changes so many lives and helps so many people because she was able to trust. There's this beautiful scene where she's taking some people and it's at night. There are like slave hunters with dogs trying to find them, and they have to cross a creek, and they think it's going to be too deep. They're not going to be able to make it through. But what does she do? She trusts and she goes, and they follow her and they make it. And it's this deep, deep faith that she has in her visions and in herself, and knowing, just knowing that God is guiding her. And I grew up Christian, and I don't hate Christianity. I think there's a lot of corruption and toxicity in organized religions, and you could even say in a lot of the New Age movement spiritually as well, but it doesn't mean that it's all devoid of like good and love and justice and truth, because there are light and shadow to everything. And I am very grateful for my Christian upbringing in many ways. And this film did kind of bring that up in me. Not that it's trying to be preachy, actually, it's not. And I like that about it. But it is sincere to her journey and her faith. And it lends itself to have the audience think, oh, is she a special case to get these visions that guide her? Or do we all have this capability, and can we all follow this divine guidance? Whether it's audibly, whether it's just through a feeling, or whether it's through visions, like visually, like she had. And that's what touched me really deeply about this film. Though, of course, there's so much that is touching about it. The whole, all the pain that she went through, and being able to get to freedom and help her loved ones, and even strangers, many strangers get to freedom. Like, that is touching, deeply touching itself. And then there's this beautiful like theme and message of the film too, to trust in your own divine guidance that is leading you to your freedom, your highest vibrational timeline and potential and everything you desire. And to keep going and to trust. And a lot of people have asked me as a spiritual worker, like, how do you learn to trust? So a lot of people have issues trusting their own intuition. They think, oh, it's just my mind, it's just my fears, it's just my worries. And that can be the case. We can kind of like hijack and cloud our intuition. And that's why it's so important to find stillness, which is there's a point to this, I promise. That's what she does in the film. Harriet, she closes her eyes and she goes within. And sometimes the visions come randomly to her, but other times she can really just find that quietness and focus, and then she'll know. She'll intuitively feel, or she'll get another vision and she'll know what to do, where to go. And it does remind me kind of like Star Wars, how in order to really utilize the Force, the Jedi Padawans must learn to cut off their senses, to really look from within and close their eyes and feel from within. I mean, we can talk about Star Wars in another one. This is about Harriet. Anywho, there is like a theme in a lot of books and films of that, and it's so true for anyone that meditates out there listening to this, that you do experience life in a different way when you begin to go within and find stillness within. Um, and maybe not even meditation, maybe, for other people, it's like, oh, being out in nature or doing art or praying. I mean, whatever it is, it's getting into that connection with our higher selves, quieting any uh, distractions so we can really tune into ourselves and higher guidance. So I want to ask you, the listener, the question of, do you listen to your intuition? Would you be able to lead people to freedom even if it risked death if you took the wrong turn? As in Harriet, like, wow, it's a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, and a lot of like scary consequences if she does something wrong. Like, would you be able to trust in yourself enough to do that? Like, wow, the amount of trust in your guidance. And I love also that this film, it shows her relationship with God is like full of the different emotions. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on, is that, it's actually a strengthening of faith and is healthy to express anger at God, express despair, express sadness, because then there's authenticity, and then there's honesty, and then there's healing that can occur, and growth in relationship with the divine. If we cut it off and we say, oh, it's just love, everything's good, and we don't feel we can even like be our authentic selves and really express our truth with God, source, creator, the universe, then we are basically keeping ourselves stuck in inauthenticity and perpetuating um, not understanding ourselves, not honoring and respecting ourselves and loving ourselves. And then that in turn will manifest with others. So it's, I think, very imperative, and she does do this in this film, is to like express whatever you're feeling in the moment with God. And I've cussed, yelled at my guides. Oof. I have gotten so mad many times. And it's all led to greater relationship. Sometimes the structure of my relationship with my spirit guides has had to change. And I've been very mad at God. I mean, the beginning of my awakening, I was so mad at God for my dad, an amazing man, suffering 15 years of cancer. I was like, what is the freaking point after he passed away? And it all hit me. I was just so mad. And anything I read in the Bible, anything anyone told me, did not comfort, did not help. I was so mad. And it wasn't about my grief, it was about how could you do that to him, you know? And so then that brought me on my own journey to find my own spiritual truth and connection. And then I was able to heal my relationship with God once I started healing myself. Back to the film. This is worth a watch. And It's not forcing political messages or religious messages in your face. It is history honorably brought to the screen and honestly expressed. It doesn't feel like there's any agendas put in it. It's literally a really honest film. And I really appreciate that. I really highly recommend it. And it can strengthen one's faith in their self, their own connection with God and their intuition. And, you can learn and also appreciate this person and what she did while she was on this earth. Because one person can make a huge difference. One person. And this film highlights that. She's even nicknamed Moses, you know. And they sing the slave songs when she comes around to alert the other slaves, since that was a way to communicate without the slave owners, the masters, knowing. Oof, yeah. So I wanted to, I mean, this might be a spoiler, but I felt the need to share it, which is that there is a final confrontation that Harriet has with the son of the family that owned her as a slave, and he is out to get her. He is fixated on getting her. But instead of killing him, because he's about to kill her, but she traps him. His name is Gideon. She allows him to live, prophesying that he would die on a battlefield fighting for the lost cause in the sin of slavery. And she told him that her people would be free. She takes his horse and she rides away. And then she leads an army in the Combahee River Raid. And the end of the film lists her accolades, her accomplishments. And she really did a lot. She was 91 years old, and her last words were, "I go to prepare a place for you." And she helped women's suffrage. She was a spy for the Union during the Civil War. She did a lot. And I love that ending, that she saw his death. Like, she knew what was going to happen. And she knew her people would be free. She knew. She knew it wasn't a lost cause. She knew it was worth fighting for because of her faith and because of her psychic knowing. I also love that it's a message. The writing of the film was to say that fighting violence with violence is the whole what you resist persists thing. She lets him live instead of killing him. Like, anyone in her shoes would want to kill this guy who's, really unempathetic and a cruel, like just a cruel man. And he'd been abusing her ever since she was a child. And her being able to get him out of her life, but knowing she won, basically, that battle of being freed from him. She had freed herself, and he will go to his own demise. I feel like that's really wise writing, because what you resist persists, and fighting hatred with more hate, even with the racism, in our world today, I don't see that that is a solution for the best and highest good. I'm not trying to tell people what to do, of course. Do what you feel is best for you, but it's about fighting with love. That's the revolution. It's creating a new structure, and then the old will fall away, like an old Socrates quote about that. Like, just take your energy and your attention away from the old structure and focus it on the new, and the old will automatically become obsolete and fall away. And I think that that is what we're in the process of now, and that's why this film is so relevant at this time, is instead of fighting racism with hatred or any kind of cruel energy. Yes, anger is justified. I'm a white woman here saying all this. Like, I'm not trying to tell people not to be angry. I think it's totally justified. Please don't misunderstand me. But I do think that waiting for someone else to save us, or playing the victim card, or just being constantly hateful is not going to heal the world. We heal by healing ourselves within, and then we heal our relationships, and then we heal our communities, our countries, and then the world becomes more healed and more loving and harmonious. So that's how I look at it, at least. You don't have to view it the same way I do, of course, but fighting with awareness, justice, and love. Being able to connect, forgive, and change, um, to better ourselves and heal ourselves, and to heal the world at large. This film brings that to my awareness at this time in human history and in American history. And it does bring to our awareness that natural knowing that without these toxic ideologies and lust for greed and power, that of course we all deserve to be equal, regardless of where we're from, color of our skin, what we believe, gender, or sexual orientation, whatever it may be. We all deserve human rights. And this needs to continually be highlighted, I think, in media until this is, it's like appearances and beliefs don't affect that and how we view others. At least that's my hope for the world. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you for listening. Again, an awesome film. Highly recommend. And I'm wishing you all well. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye bye.